Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle. Today I'm going to be talking about a crypto that I've never talked about on this channel before called Telcoin. And with everything that we've experienced in the crypto markets over the last week, a lot of things have been changing. The sentiment of a lot of people who once trusted certain companies, certain exchanges, have started losing that trust and are removing a lot of their holdings from these particular exchanges, and rightly so. I'm certainly not making any accusations of any company out there, but I think that a lot of us know all too well what occurred, and that it's very likely that there will be no accountability and nothing will come as a result of what occurred, even though tens of billions, some believe hundreds of billions, in traders' funds were liquidated and in some cases resulted in people even unaliving themselves, which I think is absolutely disgusting. There are consequences to your actions, unless, of course, you're an exchange. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into the video. And if you like the work that I do here, a great way to support me is by joining the Patreon. It's only because of the generosity of my viewers and my Patreon members that I'm able to do what I do. So it's definitely something to consider if you'd like to support my work. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now, taking a look at the major exchanges, we can see that in the last week since the flash crash, a lot of outflows have been occurring from a lot of these exchanges, which just goes to show you that a lot of people are losing faith, they're losing trust, and they're losing confidence in these exchanges. And for us Americans, it's quite a bit different because the vast majority of the exchanges that we use are offshore and they're not located within the United States, which presents a major problem for us because we virtually have zero recourse in the event that anything happens that we need to redress. I actually had a personal experience with this with a trading platform that I used to use that was located in Singapore. Now, I won't mention their name, but I used them for about a year, never had any problems, transferred money in and out of the accounts as needed for trades, and then out of nowhere, suddenly, they started to reject my withdrawals, which I found to be very concerning. So they would basically reject the withdrawal, and then you would have to get a hold of somebody to get it manually put through. Now, I only had about 5% of my available funds total on that platform, which is a percentage that I maintain to this very day. So I continued to have problems as I was trying to withdraw funds from the account. Basically just for the fact that I didn't want to store that much of my crypto on the exchange, I felt better having it in my own wallet, where I could control my assets, rather than being in the custodial wallet that they provided. I then made one last withdrawal request, which they also rejected, which took almost a week to get resolved before they processed it, and at this point, I really didn't have that much money left on the exchange, only about $2,700 to trade with. But at this point, I was absolutely sick of it and had decided to withdraw all my funds and find another place to trade because I just simply did not trust this company anymore. So then I went to make my final withdrawal, which was my entire account balance, which they also rejected. They wouldn't respond to my emails, I couldn't get a hold of anybody, and when they did respond, they wouldn't actually address the problem at hand. So I attempted to make the same withdrawal about a week later, and they simply just locked me out of my account. At that point, they wouldn't respond to any emails. There was no reasons given. I have no idea why that occurred. So essentially, I never got the $2,700 refunded to me, essentially getting ripped off by that exchange. But of course, you reap what you sow in this world, and eventually that exchange went bankrupt and no longer exists, which I am very happy about, I have to say it, very happy. But we're starting to see something very similar. Since the flash crash, there's a ton of people taking physical coins off of the exchanges as they're starting to lose trust with these exchanges. And if you've never heard of Telcoin, this is where you can find it on CoinMarketCap under TEL. It's actually very low priced. And in a lot of ways, this coin is still in the very early stages of being released to the public. It's not listed on very many exchanges. It's very hard to get a hold of any. They also have their white paper listed right here if you'd like to read up on it. They also have a coin that is similar to a stable coin, but is structured to actually be considered digital cash. So to where we have all of these companies out there, like Ripple that has RLUSD, Stellar which has USDC, we've got USDT, which is extremely risky and a whole nother story, as it's basically the wild, wild west of stable coins, which refuses to be audited and is basically on the S list in the United States and has already, as I believe it, been kicked out of being able to be used in Europe, already getting a bad reputation, even though about 99% of the exchanges that are in existence today use USDT as a settlement mechanism on their platform. So if anything was to ever go wrong with USDT and say it collapsed, it would basically take the vast majority of exchanges with it. But in regard to eUSD, which Telcoin has created, being looked at as digital cash rather than a stable coin, I could see the potential for people to adopt this and have a lot more trust and faith in it, especially under the circumstances that Telcoin is going for, which is a U.S. regulated asset depository, the first of its kind within the United States. Now, I have been reading through the white paper. It's quite a bit to read, so I still have a little bit to go, but everything that I've read in here so far, I really like. So if you would like to read through this, doing your own DD, which I always suggest you do, don't take anyone's word for anything, and I'm certainly not suggesting that you buy or invest or trade Telcoin, but it's definitely something you might want to look into because I think it has an incredibly bright future, or at least the potential for one, especially under the circumstances we're seeing now with this incredible loss in trust, which is now starting to occur within exchanges, and now I'll show you why that's the case, that Telcoin could benefit from this. Now, Telcoin is basically marketing themselves as building the Internet of Money. Telcoin is revolutionizing global finance by uniting blockchain technology, digital banking, and telecommunications. You can come look over their website if you'd like. They've got their own wallet, which I actually have on my phone, and it's where I purchased my first half of my Telcoin holdings. As I bought this quite some time ago, and when I did, it was very hard to find, and the only place I could find it was actually right here on the app. I recently just added 50% to my holdings by using BitUnex, so if you're looking to get some, you can get it on BitUnex, but there's a lot of different pairs, there's a lot of different things that you can learn looking over this. There's even some information here in regard to remittances, comparing it cost-wise. And here's an example. If you send $200 in Telcoin, it costs $240 compared to these other companies here. So in this situation, it looks like if you're sending cash, it runs at about 1.2% for fees overall. So it says here that Telcoin is a multinational fintech serving 171 countries, is revolutionizing global finance by merging blockchain technology, telecommunications, and banking. Pending regulatory approval, Telcoin Bank, a digital asset bank, will launch the world's first regulated blockchain bank, and eUSD, a pioneering bank-issued digital cash stablecoin. Telcoin offers secure, self-custodial blockchain payments and banking services globally, powered by its own decentralized financial infrastructure. As a GSMA member, Telcoin is driving the new organizational participation while empowering the Telcoin ecosystem with shared ownership of a blockchain network designed for mobile operators and their subscribers. This compliant, banking-first approach harnesses blockchain's power to redefine how the world interacts with money on the internet. So basically what Telcoin is attempting to do is become a bank. And by being a bank, you're going to get the security, the safety that comes along with banks, not this wild, wild west that we are seeing in these exchanges located in God knows where around the world. And by being regulated, there's going to be accountability, unlike these exchanges that can virtually get away with whatever they want with no accountability, which is why people are losing trust and faith in them. This is an article from February 4th, 2025. Telcoin granted approval to open Nebraska's first digital asset bank. Regulators have given a green light for the first regulated bank explicitly authorized to connect U.S. consumers to a decentralized finance, ushering in a new era of blockchain-integrated banking. Telcoin, a blockchain-based financial service, announced that its application to become Nebraska's first digital asset depository institution has been conditionally approved by the state's Department of Banking and Finance. This approval brings Telcoin Bank, a digital asset bank, another step closer to creating the first real bridge between traditional finance and cryptocurrencies. Telcoin Bank is now poised to become the first regulated crypto bank in the United States. This could be an absolute game changer. Its upcoming launch is expected to disrupt the $200 billion stablecoin market and transform the financial landscape by offering fully regulated, bank-issued digital cash stablecoins, as well as an innovative suite of blockchain banking products and services. This development promises to accelerate the adoption of crypto in the mainstream finance and provide unparalleled access to digital financial services for mobile phone users worldwide. Drop the microphone right there. Now, this is the most recent article, which was released yesterday. Telcoin raises $25 million to launch regulated digital asset bank. This is a very interesting article, and it says here, the raise also paves the way for Telcoin to enter the booming stablecoin market with its bank-issued eUSD digital cash stablecoin. Telcoin is betting that consumers really just want usable digital dollars, not a bunch of different branded USD stablecoins, explains Telcoin CEO and founder Paul Neuner. Alongside its multi-currency EXYZ digital cash offering, the company believes that eUSD can unlock the mainstream usability of crypto technology for everyday use in payments and banking in a way that non-bank stablecoins cannot. And I would absolutely agree with this statement. Neuner called the funding a pivotal moment for the company, noting its alignment with advances in the broader U.S. digital asset legislation and the recent passage of the Genius Act that regulates stablecoins. We're grateful to have such strong partners backing us as we take this next step. With our first-of-its-kind bank and stablecoin, we're providing real access to bridge the gaps between traditional banking and decentralized finance. Unlike the offshore or non-bank alternatives in the market today, which we were just talking about, eUSD will give people a regulated, trustworthy way to use digital dollars at scale. In addition to enabling the creation of the first bank-issued U.S. dollar stablecoin, the Nebraska Bank Charter is also the first U.S. banking charter to explicitly authorize connecting customers to DeFi, or decentralized financial protocols, under a regulated framework. The charter was made possible by the landmark Nebraska Financial Innovation Act, which Telcoin helped to author and pass into law in 2021. Of course they did, right? But you can see just by the little bit of this article that I've read how much opportunity that presents for Telcoin. Because we are getting to a point where people are sick of getting ripped off, they're sick of being liquidated by criminal traders that are never held accountable, they're sick of the collusion that's going on between all of these exchanges, quote, allegedly, unquote, and that's my opinion. But the more we move into digital assets, the more we, as customers, users, investors, traders, are going to need to use a company we can trust. We don't want these stupid exchanges. We want an actual bank. We want trust. We want reliability. And I do believe that that's where Telcoin is going to come into play. And I personally believe there's going to be a huge market exactly for what it is that they are about to provide. And you can mark your words, I will be one of their customers. Now jumping over and taking a look at the Telcoin chart, this is the monthly chart. We can see that Telcoin basically came into play on this chart in January of 2018, setting a pattern low down here at about the 40360 range. The all-time high resting right up here at about that 6 cent 27 range. It's forming a nice triangle pattern right here, which essentially has taken about 7 years to form. The pattern that we're currently seeing is very similar to what we're seeing in the market overall on many charts, especially in regard to the flash crash that we recently saw. Now jumping down to the daily chart, the first thing that you'll notice is how thin these candles are and how thin the trading of this particular coin has been. Since it's not widely listed on lots of exchanges, it's not widely traded. That's how early it is with this particular coin, in my opinion. But we can see that it has a very similar pattern to what we were seeing on the XRP chart, with a 5-wave move to the upside ending here, coming into a WXY correction, with price basically trading right in this area here. You can see that the flash crash candle didn't have near as much the effect on this particular chart as we saw in a lot of the other charts, which was on October 10th right here. It still got kicked pretty hard, but not near as hard as a lot of the other cryptos did, with the liquidation candle, and keep in mind this is the daily candle, being right at about 22%. Now the reason why that would be is because it's not widely traded. So in some ways, this particular coin was shielded from what we saw during the flash crash. Now there definitely looks like there could be some room to the upside as well as some room to the downside, with this lower trend line being down in this area. Now jumping over to the weekly chart, just to get a better idea of what we're dealing with, since there's so little trading going on this coin, it's a lot easier to see these little candles on the weekly chart. We can see the liquidation candle right here from the flash crash on the 10th, right here. But since that bottomed out here, it formed a bullish hidden divergence on the chart here, which we can see is actually still in play. Even though the price rebounded off of this low here, bouncing up to where price is currently trading, we can see that down here on the indicator is still resting right at that same area. Generally, in regard to the CCI, you don't see this really start to make a big move until the blue line crosses the yellow line. So as you can see here, as it was moving up, we got this big move here as the blue line broke through. We got the same thing right here as it bounced off, getting this big move here. This move right here, which wasn't quite as big, but the same thing, getting this move here. But as it sits right now, just taking a look at the indicator, we can see that the indicator value is still resting right down towards this lower trend line of this divergence, with the blue line below the yellow. I'm not saying that this is a good time to buy or anything like that. I'm simply just pointing that out. But overall, this chart looks very interesting. I like what I'm seeing. I have a decent holding so far, and I'm looking to continue adding to it. I have a set amount that I would like to get to, and it's going to take some time to get there. The first half of Telcoin that I personally bought was quite a bit cheaper than it is currently, and I believe it was right in this area, right in here is where I bought. Because I remember after I did buy, it just went down for a while. But it's kind of one of those coins that I'm planning on buying to hold long term. I will be adding it to my long-term holdings. Then I will reassess my holdings in that same time frame I've talked about ad nauseum, about 2030, 2032. But I think Telcoin is going to be one of those coins I'm going to want to accumulate and hold for a long period of time, especially since becoming the first and only regulated U.S. digital asset depository or bank in the United States. It's going to have the first mover advantage just like Bitcoin did. There isn't going to be any competition. If this goes through, people are going to flood into this bank because there's nowhere else to go. I have personally pulled all of my assets off the exchange, and I currently trust the exchange that I use. I love BitUnex. I've never had a problem with them. But in the current environment that we're in, I am playing safe. I feel better if I have all of my assets in my control. But if I do take a trade, I absolutely will be very careful with leverage, especially in this current environment. And I would never recommend to anyone that you start off trading leverage. You should always start off trading in spot until you learn to trade. And if you are trading leverage, don't do anything crazy. The higher leverage you trade, your risk increases exponentially. And as you now know, you can lose everything you have in the trade. In some cases, if you're using cross margin, you can lose everything in your account. The highest I generally trade is 20x, and that's if I'm extremely confident of the setup. Most of the time, I trade at 10x, but I run tight stop losses. So don't do anything crazy. Don't lose your capital. Manage your risk. Trade spot. Buy the coins. Hold them long term. They can't be taken from you. If you're holding the coins, the only way you can lose is if the coin goes to zero. It's the least amount of risk, and if you're holding it yourself, there's no counterparty risk, and spot positions cannot be liquidated. But if you're trading leverage, that's a whole new story. That's basically like going down to the casino, putting $10,000 on red, and just having them spin the wheel, especially if you don't have trading experience. So please, please be careful. I wish that I would have talked about this more in the past. But if you would like to trade spot, or if you're just looking for a place to swap your cryptos for zero fees, definitely look into BitUnix. It's the only place that I trade. It's the only place that I trust, and it's where I swap all of my crypto. So look into it. If that's something you're considering, you'll be glad that you did. And as always, I cannot stress this enough. Please support real content creators. Don't support AI. It's going to be a major problem moving forward for all of us. Nobody's getting away with it. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about any creator that you like. Doesn't matter where they're at. If they're on YouTube, if they're on Rumble. Support the real creators with likes, shares, memberships. Whatever you can do to help them continue to thrive. Because if we don't take a stand and support each other now, there isn't going to be any real creators left, and all you're going to be watching is regurgitated AI trash. I don't know about you, but the second I see AI, I just flip off the video. I can't stand looking at it. It's soulless. It has no vision. It's like staring into a black hole. But I just want to put that out there because I think it's really important. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. God bless, and have a great day.